I see a big problem in the indie horror games industry. We all know the cheap horror games that use little or no atmosphere, storytelling, nor psychological horror elements. Most of them rely on a quick, loud noise and a visual flash, hoping to scare at least some new players to the genre. Of course, I'm not judging anyone, because no matter what you put in a game, it's already a big thing to make one that works and is actually playable. But I want to create something different, something that truly thrills players, no matter how experienced they are within that genre. Although, I don't want my first game to just try to be scary and skip all the fun part of actual playing games. I want to create something actually good and enjoyable while still being scary. So that's why I'm making this. GAM. I just gave that name when I was trying to figure out how Godot worked and was on prototyping stage. I'll try to think of a better name, so if any of y'all have ideas for the name or anything different you see in this video, feel free to comment or join the Discord in the description and give us a question there. Imagine this, you are in a 60s styled maze looking around trying to figure out how to get out. Strangely, the compass in your pocket points to the center of the maze, where an old and rusty old machine is located. You realize you need to run around the map and collect oil bottles that are placed randomly. However, you have a lantern in your right hand that, surprise surprise, also works on oil. In this scenario, you need to think about your strategy. Should you deposit as much oil as you can to the machine but risk running out of it and finding out what lurks in the dark? Or should you keep more for your lantern but make the gameplay slower and risk not having enough oil because the lantern used too much over that time? The game itself is very quiet. You need to listen for any type of sounds to detect when the monster is close. I hope not, but if you hear something that isn't a sound of a clock nor radio, you need to turn around and look at it, because it doesn't like being seen, especially being in the light. There's one major thing though. Near the bottles with the oil, there's typically a rusty old clock that surprisingly still works. The time has damaged it so badly that the ticking sounds are very distorted, and sometimes those can sound like quiet, shallow footsteps. I've seen too many players getting used to a horror game and not being scared anymore since the game got too repetitive, even when the fear factor is pretty good. That's why I want to always add something new to the gameplay, as the player gains knowledge about how the monster and game behaves. Maybe does the player now know how the monster AI works? Change it. Instead of just stalking, leaning out of corners and very rarely following, now it's more aggressive. Doing that will make you, as a player, watch out for monster footsteps even more, and those footsteps may become more metallic, just like the ticking clock sounds. Maybe the player memorized the map and can easily get to the center now, make the compass test accurate, freak out when the monster is close, and most importantly, make some walls shift. This way, I'll try to make the player learn about the game all the time and never be 100% sure about what comes next. I want to make the style PS1-like, retro, and low poly, since it's easy to make it look good and has special vibe that, in certain scenarios and environments, can add much to the game immersiveness. Although, most of these assets you'll see today are only for this prototype and will change in the future devlogs. I hope you understand that in this devlog I'm focusing more on core mechanics and script concepts rather than graphics, GUI, and level design. That doesn't mean I won't be covering these topics today though. I'm also planning to add some texture wrapping and limit the color palette range which will mostly affect the lantern and make the maze seem more obscure and disorienting. First, to make the gameplay more enjoyable, I added pretty fast and dynamic movement, the possibility of speedrunning, and made it as replayable as possible by making the oil pickups spawn randomly on the map. A similar situation applies to the machine that the oil will be poured into. It will spawn randomly, but still close to the center of the map, so the gameplay doesn't become too chaotic. After finishing the movement system, I focused on making the actual monster. It has produced through animation, in other words, IK rigs. I had a lot of problems with it, mostly related to pattern or rotations, which I managed to fix after 2 weeks of trying to figure out what was wrong. However, after some testing, I scrapped all of it and made the movement based on Godot built-in navmesh, since I felt the first system didn't fit well within the world environment. Just a quick note for all the indie developers like me. Remember that when you invest a lot of time into something, our brain can start to gaslight us, making us think it is good just because we sacrificed so many hours. Back with the monster, I'll be improving how it behaves, how it turns, and its overall look to make it more lifelike. But I think for a amount of progress from knowing nothing to this is not that bad. I'm also thinking about making it move at lower FPS similar to the effect in the new Spider-Man animated movies. Or just vertex snapping, to make it more horrifying and simply disorienting. Next, I've made an oil pickup system, and for now I've marked it with a red cube and a cut picture. You need to look at it and hold the interact button for 3 seconds to successfully load the oil into the lantern. It was pretty simple to implement. I haven't made all loading sounds though, or any sounds in general, but that's a task for future me, right? I had a lot of problems with making the compass though. I wanted it to have 2 states. In the first state, the compass directly points at the old machine near the center of the map with a bit of latency and a little bit of movement sway. I needed to use some tricks to make it look good and polished, like taking a real compass and spinning around with it in hand 4,526 times to check how rotations affects it. Mostly it just lags behind a lot and slowly corrects itself after a few seconds of standing still. The second side is when the monster is near the player. It barely affects the pointer, but it is a good indicator when you can hear the monster footsteps approaching from afar. I'm planning to nerf it a bit so the player won't have it out all the time. I'll be probably making it slow it down just a bit, since in real life when you can't use your hands for balance, you run slower, I guess. After thinking more about the monster system and how the AI works now, I realized that just having it follow the player is not enough. At the current moment, I'm a few steps away from starting to create stalk, follow and maybe chase states. I'm still unsure about the chase state because it could ruin the whole concept of the monster being quiet and waiting for the player's next move. But as everyone knows, the most unexpected thing is the most disorienting and panic-inducing. The stalk state will be used mostly at the start of the game until the player gains 1 or 2 oil bottles from the pickup locations. The AI will follow whenever the player goes until the ray cast from the monster's head collide with the player. If that happens, the monster will stop, which will, in the most cases, leave it half hiding behind a wall, creepily leaning out until the player shines a lantern at it. If the player doesn't notice the monster, the light will no longer be colliding with them, which makes the state continue until the monster is seen or a normal oil bottle is picked up, which will result in a 50% chance of the AI starting to follow state, because the player is most unaware and unsuspecting when they are saving, celebrating, finding a new oil bottle, and a 50% chance running away. The follow state will simply have the AI follow the player until it catches him, or until it is seen with the lantern turned on. The AI state will be given randomly, although the randomness will be manipulated by the old battle pickup counts. So as the player progresses and learns more about the monster behaviors, those will change with the follow state becoming more frequent. By the way, if you have any ideas, want to check out sneak peeks or get frequent updates about the state of the game, feel free to join my Discord server, linked below the video. Let's build a community and see where this and next projects go. And that's it for the devlog. I hope you enjoyed it and learned a few new things.